Wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley.
Do you see any of the aggro crag? Was any of that left over?
No, unfortunately not.
No?
I'm taking some of that home.
Definitely not is the barn burner that Leaf Cassidy and Tiger thing was, but we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Because it's still real to me, damn it.
He kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Selena Vega on a pole match.
And I mean, Big E's got Whale performing in his entrance, so I feel like
Wale.
Wale. I don't listen to. Okay, well, I don't listen to him, so I apologize to Wale.
This is in the mail, my good sir. No, it wasn't. Paul.
I feel like Vince is just gonna have them team together and be like, have them called Woo Bro. Like they're just gonna be the Woo Bros. Like, anyway.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely,
And then you can listen to us too.
Strap on and balls only on wrestling past and present.
This is Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior, and you're listening to Wrestling where wrestling's past and present.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Pulis.
Hopefully Mongo.
Yes, we've had a little bit of technical issues trying to get the show on the air today. But I think we're all here now for episode 94, all about Fall Brawl 1996.
Present.
You got presents? What the fuck?
Yeah, right. So this continues the NWO storyline of the takeover of WCW. So this is a very fitting show to do, following the Bash at the Beach, the betrayal of Hulk Hogan, the attack, as they called it, culminating at Bash at the Beach for Hogan to turn and be the third man. So it just made sense to cover it, and I'm honestly surprised we didn't cover it the first year. So
I was going to say, yeah, if you go back to episode 31, you can hear the Podfathers talk about Bash of the Beach 96. And, as an original listener, before I became the third man, as Roland joked on the text.
That was Tim's joke.
That was me.
That was Tim's joke. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
See, Tim does have good idea, Mongo. Why would you say
He does. Well, because you know what? Sometimes in the group check, I get lost because I ramble on like a motherfucker. So,
and a lot of times that rambling is hard to read too, to be honest.
Yeah. So. Full disclosure, when Roland and I watched All Out together, we had a full conversation about the way you text us.
Yeah. We were like sometimes we have to try to decipher what he's trying to say, and yeah. This went off the rails real quick. We're not even
it is what it is.
But to be fair, we love you. We do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was going to say you wouldn't keep me on unless you somewhat tolerated me, right? But no, I was going to say I was surprised, in the earlier episodes was to cover, but it's definitely a good one to cover because, like you both said, Bash of the Beach 96 was iconic. NWO storyline was iconic. This was probably when they heated up, when the 83 week kind of started. This is when WCW was the best it was. And unfortunately, it didn't last long, but at least we got a good pay-per-view out of it.
It's ironic that the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be went down there, and WCW wasn't the best anymore.
No. So, Roland inspired me this week. Last week, he took notes for the first time in a long time on what we covered last week, the TNA show. So I took some notes as well. So I'm a little bit more prepared than I normally am. So I'm looking forward to sharing the notes that I have. And one of the notes I wrote down was just loving the mid-90s wrestling. Like, it's just one of my favorite eras of wrestling. I actually didn't watch a whole lot of mid-90s WCW. I was more the 99, 2000, like when it was kind of on its decline.
Whoa, so don't say 2000.
I did not. I didn't say it.
Oof.
So I really liked, I look forward to going back to 96 and watching this episode.
Yeah, it's iconic to think about, Hogan turning heel for the first time essentially in his career. I know he was a heel like right at the very beginning of his career when he was Terry Boulder and all these weird names and stuff. But for the most part, Hulk Hogan was never a heel. So it's iconic.
No, absolutely. Because, when you think Hulk Hogan, most fans think red and yellow, Hulkamania brother, say your prayers, take your vitamins, it just the stereotypical Hulk Hogan. And then, so I think that's what shocked the world, because this was truly one of the moments that shocked the world, because it really wasn't on the dirt sheets. Because if you listen to 83 Weeks or Eric Bischoff and any of his interviews, they didn't really know that Hulk Hogan was even going to be the third man until probably a few weeks before, because he kind of kept turning them down because he didn't really want to turn heel. But his character was getting stale, so it was definitely needed. And not to use a cliche, it injected some poison into the wrestling business.
If anybody's going to kill my creation, it's going to be me. And WO. I knew where you were going with that, so.
Thank you. Easier to decipher in person than my fat-fingered text or my long text. But that's also because Tim's got a green bubble, so that doesn't help, too.
Tim's the only non-iPhone user in the group, so yeah,
yep.
That's kind of weird.
So let's get right into it. There's 8 total matches to go over. We'll get right into our first match. It's DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, and Chavo Guerrero Jr. Match goes about 13 minutes. DDP getting the win with I kind of wrote down a sloppy-looking diamond cutter. It just didn't look real natural to me. I was really looking forward to this match on paper. I thought this would be a really good match, although it was a little sloppy, especially on Chavo's end. You could definitely tell he was a little inexperienced at this point. And this kind of, to me, the match was a little bit slow, and there's a little confusion because there's 2 rings for the War Games match at the end, and they fought in both rings, and the commentators didn't know. Oh, are you allowed to do this or not? They didn't know, and they allowed them to wrestle in both rings. So a little bit of confusion there. So I wasn't really, this one didn't live up to expectations for me. It was a little sloppy, a little slow, and you could definitely tell the inexperience of Chavo here.
Speaking of commentary, I love this commentary trio.
Yeah.
I know that Dusty Rhodes is a little bit of more of a promo guy per se than an actual commentator. But this group of 3 was a very solid, with Dusty, Tony, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. It's sad to think that only one of them's alive still. That's crazy to me. And it like Tim said, this is like childhood to me. So seeing this again and seeing, some of the voices of my childhood. I know everybody's like, oh, JR is the voice of my childhood, or Tony Schiavone is the voice of my childhood. Well, I mean, if you were a fan, they both were, because one was on one show, one was on the other. So I also noted in my notes that the DDP took that move off the top rope, that flying clothesline, and they were all the commentary guys were like, that was impressive for a guy that big, and it was actually a pretty neat move. And that spinning sit down power bomb he did was friggin' insane. The fact that he actually hit it the way he did, because it looked sloppy at the start, and somehow they got there. So, and then it ended with the diamond cutter. So
yeah, the crowd reaction to the diamond cutter was insane. This must have been, from my memory, correct me if I'm wrong, right when DDP was this close to becoming the megastar that he was, because the crowd was so hot for him. And then Chavo kind of looked like he was a little hesitant at times. So I don't know if maybe he just didn't have the chemistry, maybe wasn't as experienced then, because I know originally this match was supposed to be Eddie Guerrero and DDP, because they had that feud going into it for a while. Remember, they had that the Battle Brawl ring, and they had the whole storyline with them fighting, and then randomly it was Chavo. So I don't know if there was issues or what, and maybe that's why Chavo was kind of, because like Tim said, the diamond cutter was sloppy, but the middle of this match kind of seemed like it just didn't flow like the beginning and the end. And I definitely agree with you, because Dusty Rhodes in commentary, man, I forgot what a gem he was. Just his little quips, and then he played off, Tony so well. And Bobby the Brain he's a legend in his own right. So that helped elevate the match, because even though this match probably wasn't the best match, the commentary kind of kept you up in the match, kept you interested in the match, because it felt like you said, nostalgic, and it felt like this was the DDP I remember. This was the DDP that I became a fan of and got made fun of for. But you know what? He definitely reinvented himself, and Chavo unfortunately went to Pepe a little while later. Remember that?
The friggin' horse. Yeah.
The horse. Yep.
One of the other notes I wrote down too. Did you guys see all the douchebags dancing around in the aisleway during this match?
Yeah.
Every time they went to the hard cam, the building had these wide ass steps, so the aisle was 5 feet wide. It seemed like, and these guys are dancing around and strutting in the aisleway and stuff. It's
well, somebody was dressed up as Ric Flair. And
yeah,
there was Razor. And Razor, right?
Yeah, that was Razor Ramon. Yeah.
I guess I don't consider North Carolina a wrestling state, but they were definitely very hot for this pay-per-view. And I don't know if they were rowdy.
You don't consider North Carolina, where Ric Flair's from, a wrestling state?
I know he's from there, but when you think of like crowds like Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, like I don't consider it like a rabid, I should say. So I'll rephrase that. I don't consider it like a rabid wrestling state. Like to me, I feel like it's more of a college town, it's more of a college basketball, more of like, Michael Jordan, things like that. But I don't really consider it like a hot crowd. So I was more shocked by that. But then again, WCW was more of a Southern draw. So I guess that makes sense with NWA and WCW. Leave me alone, Tim.
Keep digging, Tim.
Right?
Keep digging at
what I
him.
meant. You knew what I meant.
So like Tim said, Charlotte, North Carolina is Flair country. Right,
but they were in Winston-Salem. Where the hell is Winston-Salem?
North Carolina is not that big. It can't be that far away from Charlotte.
I'm just meant in context. Like if you think of Philly crowds versus North Carolina, I feel that they're just not the same kind of crowd as what I was trying to go with.
Full disclosure, I went to a Raw house show in Asheville, North Carolina 8 years ago, maybe. I was there for my work. They sent us there for 2 weeks. So on the weekend, we had to do something. It just so happened that it was a Friday night. So we went to the Asheville Civic Arena or whatever it was, and we saw a Raw show. I got to see CM Punk. That was kind of cool. And so we went to the Biltmore Museum the next day, and the guy that I still work with now. We're going about halfway through the Biltmore Museum thing. He's like, he looks around and he goes, "Boy, this is sure different crowd than we had last night." the people at the wrestling show were a little bit different. Put it that way. They were not the Biltmore Museum type. Put it that way. That's all right. When we got to at the end, and again, this has nothing to do with wrestling, but at the end of the Biltmore Museum thing, they take your picture. So like they took our picture and whatever, and then you can go pick it up. And like we went and looked at it, and we were like, they're gonna think we're a gay couple. Like we're not buying this because it's gonna end up in like the company newsletter or something. Like you can keep it, thanks. Like we're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, there's nothing worse when you go somewhere and they have those awkward photo ops. Like I went to it's down to Dollywood with my buddy Kenny, and we went to this, essentially it's called Dixie Stampede. It's medieval times, but like country redneck version of it. And we walk in and I'm by myself because obviously I'm not going to take a picture with Kenny and his wife because that's just weird. So they're like, let's get a picture of you. And they're like, oh, do you want anyone else in the picture? I'm like, why do I look that pathetic?
You're like, no, just take the picture.
I'm like, I don't want the picture. So literally it's like a side profile as I'm like walking away, and they're like, you can buy this for $25. And I was like, I didn't want it in the first place. No. But I guess I'll keep that on ice to help segue, Tim.
Yeah, that's very good. Wow, I'm proud of you, Mongo. That's a pretty good segue there.
A fire segue there.
So next up is a submission match. You have Ice Train with Teddy Long getting a win over Scott Norton in about 7 minutes. This match just kind of there for me, but the first one I wrote about this was Teddy Long looked friggin' huge here. Like
I wrote that down too.
I wrote big in big letters on my notes. Like I didn't even recognize him at first. He just looked massive.
He had slightly better teeth from the last time we saw him.
So
they were so baggy. The suits were so baggy.
And the other thing that are right under that is Dusty Rhodes trying to say the word, and I'm going to go slowly, but I'm probably going to mispronounce it myself. Ventriloquist. Just the way he pronounced that.
Ventriloquist.
Match itself was just kind of there. I did kind of like that it's a submission match between two big guys. You don't really see that a whole lot in wrestling. Ice Train wins with the full Nelson or the Hurt Lock now or whatever, Master Lock, whatever you want to call it. Nothing really special here, but Dusty and Teddy Long really made the match for me.
Yeah, and these are two former tag team partners. They used to be Fire and Ice. Like you said, there wasn't much to this. A couple of times, Teddy Long teased throwing the towel in for Ice Train, which I thought was kind of weird. And then the one thing that I really took away from this match is that it was a submission. It was billed as a submission match, but yet they had the microphone, like they had to quit, and then Norton still tapped out anyways. So it's like, why did you have a microphone you didn't need? Because he tapped out anyways.
If that's not WCW, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
I wrote down too that when he puts the camel clutch on, he kind of like moves and goes like a chin lock, and then just literally gives up on the submission. Like he has Norton in a chin lock, and he's just like stops. I'm like, wait, this is a submission match. Why are you letting go? So this match was a clusterfuck. Like honestly, like I know what it was. Like this was like one of those feuds that I feel like lasted forever. Like I remember when Fire and Ice were feuding. I felt like they just wrestled every pay-per-view. This was they had nothing for them, so they just kept fighting each other and trading victories over and over. But yeah, this was just a cluster. It was a 7-minute match, and it went 6 minutes too long.
Next up is a singles match for the AAA Heavyweight Championship. You have Conan with Jimmy Hart, which I didn't realize they were pairing at one point. That was a little interesting to me. They're going to get a win over Juventud Guerrera in about 13 minutes and 45 seconds. I took on my notes here, I wrote it was a good match overall. But did you notice that Juventud tripped over the stairs on his way to the ring?
I was going to say
trip backwards.
That was the second loss he took that night.
Yeah.
The stairs got him the first time.
There was a cool ring-to-ring spot with Juvi there. Conan would win with the power drop. So I thought it was a good match, entertaining match. This was kind of heel Conan here. I think he just made the turn. So I enjoyed this one. Probably the best match of the night so far.
And this match was billed for the Mexican Heavyweight Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the belt?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, so Conan, like, they kind of told you who was going to win, because you're not going to have Juvi win if there's no belt for him to hold up at the end. Like, hey, I'm the champion. Yay. Like, what? And then the other thing I took away from this, too, is that this was originally supposed to be Psychosis, but Conan injured him, which is why Juvi stepped up, I guess, to do the match. But, yeah, it was... they mentioned that Conan made the change after he lost the belt to Flair, the U.S. title to Flair. They said that they tried to influence him. The U.S. tried to influence him when he first came over, and now he's doing this for all the chulos in Mexico. That's apparently how they dress. Now, I never been to Mexico, so I don't know that. We'll just have to take. I assume that Tony Schiavone said that, because I can't see Brain or Dusty Rhodes saying chulos, but I'll just have to take their word for it, because I've never been to Mexico.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned today, because I was kind of shocked that Mike Tenay came out. Like, he just came out to the commentary team, and it was interesting. But I'm glad you guys mentioned his trip, because I honestly laughed for a good 2-3 minutes when he just trips. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good match already. But
I like how they cut away and they didn't say anything about it.
No.
It was pretty obvious, though. I'm surprised they haven't edited it. I mean, overall, it was a good match. A lot better than a showing on Dynamite, which, if you watched Juvi on Dynamite recently, it's him just waiting for a spot. And this one, thankfully, this was vintage. If you want to see Juvi, this is a match to see him in. Like the 450 splash he hits, and like you said, just the different moves he did from ring to ring, and the storytelling. They both worked well together. I know we've kind of crapped on Conan before in some of the other matches where he just seems slower. This match was also vintage Conan, so this was a decent match for the workers. But like Roland said, they're billing it for a Mexican Heavyweight Championship, and there's not even a belt. So if Juvi won, was he just going to do the imaginary Aaron Rodgers discount double check thing, or what?
Next up, you have a match between Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. Benoit is going to get the win in about 14 and a half minutes here. Just to give you a quick note, I went to Chris Jericho's book, The 30 Years of Jericho, and went to this match. This was his 602nd match. He rated it 3.5 stars, and he got paid just under $1,500 for this match. It was his first ever WCW pay-per-view match. I thought it was a good match. I thought it was really entertaining. I wrote down Jericho hit a tombstone pile driver, which I thought was interesting in this match. Don't really see him do that, I don't think, ever again. And I also thought the finish was a little unusual. It was just a back suplex, which is a common move that you see nowadays. But Benoit wins with that. But overall, I mean, these are two legendary workers. We've given you our stance on Benoit multiple times on this podcast. We don't need to go into it again. But this one was definitely a good match.
They billed Chris Jericho from Calgary at the beginning of this match too, which I think is funny. because we all know he's from Winnipeg, Manitoba. He's not from Calgary.
From Winnipeg, you idiot.
Right. So I thought that was kind of odd. And then, one of the things that I took away from this, and not go any further into what Tim said, but man, was Chris Benoit good. He was, again, I'm not saying anything about what happened towards the end of his life, obviously, but like as a wrestler and at this time, man, he was just so physical. Some of the stuff he could do in the ring, he was like a hybrid between a high flyer and a bruiser. He was just so good. And Jericho and him always seemed to have really good matches together, so that helped. They had a lot of chemistry because they'd been around at different promotions together, so that helped. But yeah, a very solid match, a very physical match, especially from Benoit to Jericho. Some of the stuff he did looked pretty brutal. So,
and this is when, me personally, I started to really like Jericho, because this is I know it's his first pay-per-view, but I knew of him because it was one of those things where he made appearances here and there, but this is, like Tim said from the book, was his first ever pay-per-view match, which kind of stunned me because I feel like he was in WCW forever, but he was only really there for 3 years. But man, he made the most of it, because it was next year I think that he had the cruiserweight title and had his actual music, but I can't believe the stuff he used to be able to do. And then you see him now and you're like, he used to be able to do those like top rope, triple moonsaults and the lion salt. And there was one point I noted in the match that I thought he was going to break his friggin' neck, because he like tried like this weird elbow thing and like he landed on his head, and Benoit just kind of like looks at him like, did he die? And then Mike Tenay was kind of just gone. I was like, I feel like he should have been in this match, because that would have been the perfect pairing, because I feel like he knows Jericho a little bit better. But yeah, it was overall, it was a great match. I don't obviously want to get into too much of Chris Benoit's history either, but as a worker, if you kind of just look back at the time frame, 1996, this was definitely a match of the night that was a sleeper, because you had two technical wrestlers who, like Roland said, had two different styles. You had not only the technical style where they both could do submissions, work the mat, work a body part, but they could both jump off the top ropes and hit spots out of nowhere that you wouldn't expect.
And then I noted too that at the very beginning, towards the beginning of the match, Jericho actually got a Walls of Jericho put on him by Benoit, which I thought was kind of funny. I was like, that's weird.
Next up is a singles match for the Cruiserweight Championship. You have Rey Mysterio getting a win over Super Callow, Fragilistic Expialidocious, in about just under 16 minutes here. I will admit, I didn't really know anything about Super Callow going into this, but he really impressed me in this match. I thought he performed really well. He actually dominated a fair amount of this match. So that was my biggest takeaway, was how impressive he was. I thought they put on a really solid match. There was a ring-to-ring Frankensteiner to end it, which I thought was a fantastic move. And, I think the right person went over, obviously, with Mysterio, but Super Callow really impressed me here.
Super Callow kind of looked like a cross between Conan and Curryman.
Yeah, a little bit. His look was good. Like, who was like, dude, you look good.
Yeah.
Like, what the?
A little bit of Repo Man in there too.
Yeah. But I mean, Rey Mysterio, we all know what Rey Mysterio can still do at this age, let alone what he could do back in '96. So, you had to figure this match was going to have its fair share of high spots. I mean, it's a cruiserweight title match. But it's amazing to see how little Rey Mysterio was. I mean, I know he's still a small guy, but like he had like no muscle back then. So like he was like a scrawny, real little, tiny. And again, like I said, I'm not saying he's huge by any means now, but he's way bigger than he was then.
I think that's why it always bothered me in 2008 that he won the world heavyweight title. I don't care if he won the WWE title, but the fact that he won the heavyweight title when the dude was like 100 pounds soaking wet, like his whole career. Like, it's just like a slap in the face when like he went from a cruiserweight champion to the heavyweight. Like, if you're going to have a weight class on a title, don't give it to the guy who needs 3 of them to meet that limit. And I'm not downing Rey Mysterio because he's a hell of a worker. Like Roland said, the high spots in this match were amazing. Like the crazy drop kick, and Callow almost killed himself on a drop kick, and the Frankenstein to the other ring, like you said. Like, they both put in the high spots and put in the match. Only one fan I noticed was kind of bad because randomly, I don't know if you guys caught it, I wrote down some fan was like, boring, like during the middle of the match. And I was like, I'm like, that's kind of an insult, but I think it's just because they really didn't know who Callow was. And I think he was just one of the people who was just kind of there because I don't really remember him. And I tried looking him up, and even Wikipedia is like, we don't got anything for you. So like, I don't know if it was just one of those, they were just trying out, because this was when that cruiserweight division was really starting to ramp up and become its niche. So I don't know if they were just trying to like find people from, what was their training school called? I can't remember, the
Power
from
Plant.
Georgia. Power Plant, thank you. So I don't know if they were just pulling people from that power plant who could, hey, can you jump off the top rope? Yep, you're in this match.
That's one thing about the Chavo match too earlier. Like when he did that springboard, it felt like he's like froze forever on that top rope. Like I know this has nothing to do, but like that. So like you said, it seems to be like, hey, can you jump? Oh, you can? All right, cool. We're gonna put a mask on you, and we're gonna call you Super Callow. And even Bobby Heenan said the Callow fragilistic expialidocious thing. I thought was funny.
And the fact that he said that without like stuttering or twisting his words, impressive, because like I struggle on basic English language. If you've listened to the show for any point in time, you know. So
Or
the fact that
receive
he
the
can
text.
say that. What's that?
Or receive your text.
All right. All right. We're no. Next match.
Mongo's like, I'm not gonna die on this hill. Next match.
Next match is a tag team match for the World Tag Team Championship. You have Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry and Colonel Robert Parker. They're going to get a win over the Nasty Boys in about 15 and a half minutes. Before we go any further, I want to send our best wishes to Brian Knobs. He's having some significant health issues going on right now. I think there's a GoFundMe page out there if you want to donate to his cause. So best wishes to Nasty Boy Brian Knobs there.
You would think that Hogan would be able to help him out. Hogan's one of his buddies, and
Yeah.
Hogan,
They're related, aren't they? Aren't they like brother-in-law or like cousins? They're related somehow, I think.
Well,
He's
they're
always on that TV show, Hogan's Knows Best.
Yeah.
He's always over there. So
Yeah. I'm always entertained by the Nasty Boys matches. We watched, a decent amount of them throughout the episodes covered on this podcast. This one, though, just had a lot of gaga for me. There's so much interference between Robert Parker and Sister Sherry. Kind of took away from the match a little bit. That's kind of the one thing I noted here. The ending comes with Sister Sherry hits Brian Knobs with the cane, and then they get the 1, 2, 3 for Harlem Heat. So a little too much gaga for me. Still an entertaining match, but I think the shenanigans and interference kind of took away from it a little bit.
yeah, it didn't need to have the amount of shenanigans that it did. It could have had a little bit, like maybe if you wanted to do the ending the way you did, like that's fine. But throughout the whole match, like the stuff they had with Teddy Long earlier was like the perfect amount. He got involved a couple times on the apron, and he got in the ring once for the distraction type thing, and that was it. And that's all you needed. But yeah, it seemed like it was a 4-on-2 handicap match, essentially.
Yeah. I remember when they had Parker and Sherry, it's when I really feel like Harlem Heat wasn't really at their best, because I just feel like you said, there's always gaga. Like you always knew Parker or Sherry was going to interfere. You always knew that they were going to come up in the apron and do that stupid spot that just needs to go away. I am so sick of the heel manager going on the spot and distracting the ref while something happens. Like we've seen that spot 1,000 times. It's not original. It needs to go away. All it does is just cheapen anything in the match. And this match, I think, could have been a lot better if, like you both said, the gaga wasn't there. I mean, it's pretty sad when the most notable thing is when friggin' Heenan was calling it the clubbering wrestling, or like some world clubbering wrestling or something like that for WCW. Like, this is world clubbering wrestling coming at you. Like that's sad. That's the only memorable thing. And I know the Nasty Boys were out of their element in this match because it just kind of seemed like they were just there. So I don't know if they didn't have chemistry with Harlem Heat or what it was, but it seemed like this match was just doomed from the start, as bad as it sounds. And I like Harlem Heat. I think Stevie Ray and Booker T are one of the best tag teams, in WWE for a reason. They're Hall of Fame for a reason. But this match it was just kind of there, and it could have been like 10 minutes less probably, because it seemed like it just dragged on for a while.
Next up is a singles match between the Giant and Randy Savage. Went just under 8 minutes. I don't know. Not much to discuss here. Hogan and the Outsiders get involved, cause Savage to win. So the Giant ends up picking up the win here. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. I know it kind of furthers the NWO storyline, but nothing really to write home about with this one.
It was like Bear Hug City.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like the Giant had Savage in a bear hug for like 2/3 of the match. So yeah, and then the other third, it was like a Boston Crab. So Yeah, again, not much going on here. Very, very. I don't. It's hard to describe. I don't want to like shit on it, but like it was just bad. It was really bad, underwhelming. I don't know how else to word it, but it was pretty bad.
I'll shit on it. I mean, you know, it's gonna be bad when the Giant came out to one song and they're like, "Shit, NWO music, NWO music, NWO music." Like they randomly changed his theme song as he was entering the match. I don't know. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
At least he didn't come out to Abyss's music.
Like they started the Giants like his normal song, and then they get awkwardly cut out, and then the NWO music. Like, did someone already forget the storyline that Giant just turned heel to NWO like a few weeks before this? Like, what is going on? And it's kind of a shame to see Macho Man in a match like this because it just both these guys aren't bad workers. So like Roman said, I don't know why it was like a Floyd Mayweather match where they were just hugging the whole time. Like it's just they were afraid of each other. Was Randy afraid of getting hurt? Like, it shouldn't have been on the card. Like this was just. It's not a match that you want to remember either of these people being in. I mean, just yeah, no, I don't have anything to say. It was fucking terrible. That's all I'll say.
So our main event is a War Games match between Team NWO and Team WCW. Now, just to give you a little context, everybody in WCW thinks Sting has turned on them and has joined the NWO. That happened on a Nitro where he attacked Luger. Even during this match, there was a promo where Luger was being interviewed and Sting comes out to try to explain himself and Luger's not buying it. So you need to know that context going into this match. A War Games here, they start off, one person from each team starts off for 5 minutes, and then after that, in 2-minute periods, another member comes in, whoever wins the coin toss. NWO won the coin toss, so they would come in next, and then WCW vice versa. It was supposed to be every 2 minutes. Nobody followed that. They were coming out whenever they wanted to. 30 seconds left, a minute left, 10 seconds left. I mean, they just showed up whenever they wanted. That's what I wrote down my notes. Luger came in early, then Hogan came in early, and then I'm like, everyone came in early.
And what a shocker it was that the heel team won the coin toss.
Yeah, what a shocker that was. So, you know, I thought it was it was an okay match. These are really clunky and clustery matches, the War Games, at least the ones that we've covered so far. I know some of them are really good. So this one did all right. I like the Sting dynamic here. You had Ray Farmer playing the NWO Sting in this match, and you had the real Sting come out last. He beats up the fake Sting and then just leaves. So that allows NWO to get the win with the Scorpion Deathlock by the fake Sting. You had to win by submission or surrender in this match. So I think they did. I think they actually planned the finish well because you don't know where Sting lies. You have to have the NWO win here because they just formed. You're not gonna they're not gonna let them lose and kill all the momentum just a few months after Bash at the Beach. So it makes sense for them to win. I think they did it well with the Sting dynamic. So the actual match itself, it might have been a little clunky, but I think they really finished it well. Which wasn't one of the strong suits of WCW. So a good way to continue the NWO storyline.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much that I could add to that because Tim covered it very well. I never understood the idea of a War Games match having 2 rings. Like, why does it need to have 2 rings? You can't get the rings close enough. So there's that weird gap in the middle and whoever, what's better than 1 ring? Fuck me too. Like, no, I don't know whose idea that was, just like the triple cage thing from Ready to Rumble. Like, who thought that was a good idea to actually make that happen? Like, and then the one, I don't know. Some of the stuff that WCW did was like overly hokey. And for some reason, every time I see a War Games match, I still wonder, I'm like, why do we need to have 2 rings? Why? Like, why? We don't need 2 rings.
I think it's got to be something to do with camera angles because maybe they're just afraid it'll be too clustery in one. But no, I agree. And I feel like they always do the same spots in the War Games match where someone gets thrown from one ring to the other and they sell it like they've been shot out of a cannon. They, like Tim said, the timing of this one kind of screwed me up. Like when they were, every 2 minutes, like they're Buffer's explaining the rules, and then 30 seconds after he's done explaining the rules, they don't follow their own rules. So I feel like we always talk about in the show, WCW will put stipulations in place And then 30 seconds later, like, man, we're done with that. We said it. That's good enough. We're just going to go with it. I thought, out of the War Games match, it was one of the better of the War Games ones we've seen. But like Tim said, it's clustery. It's all over the place. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with. The crowd really could care less. They just wanted to see Ric Flair. The whole time they were just chanting, "We want Flair," in his awful green trunks that looked like they were a diaper. Like, I just wanted to point that out. Like, those were the worst trunks that they've ever seen Ric Flair in. Like, it's like they were 8 sizes too. He must have went to Teddy Long's tailor to get those trunks because they were friggin' massive. And Hogan I don't understand how Hogan was seen as a good wrestler. Like, he was a good gimmick, but man, he could not hit someone with a move that looked devastating to save his life. Like, besides his leg drop, he would throw a punch and it would literally look like he missed him by a mile. So I don't understand how anyone was intimidated by him. And yeah, it was a decent match. Obviously, like you both said, the NWO had to go over because this is the birth of the NWO. It would have made no sense for them to lose to WCW when they were demanding limos, demanding to get paid, demanding that they were going to own WCW, and Hogan had just desecrated the the World Heavyweight title, and they were taking over, and they didn't care about the fans. If they had just lost, the whole momentum would have gone. So the right team went over. It was just a cluster, and I think they just tried to use it to show how dominant the faction was. But besides Kevin Nash, doing a couple clotheslines and good moves, it was just kind of there. And I really think they could have done better, just maybe doing like a Survivor Series elimination style and showing their dominance. Because even at the end, they turned into clustery and Hogan cutting a promo and them just attacking everyone, beating Flair and Anderson. Flair and Anderson take out the outsiders. Randy Savage running out. Like, it even ended with a cluster. I'm like, I don't understand why you want to end a pay-per-view that way. I just feel like that's not going to send the fans home happy.
Well, and the best part about it was the Sting storyline. They told that well, and like Tim said, I don't know if you could have done it any differently and had it be as successful as it was, because you had, the fake Sting, and then you have the real Sting come out and, show Luger and everybody else, like, listen, I wasn't lying. That wasn't me. And this is essentially when Sting ends up going on his hiatus here. Like, WCW turns his back on him, so to speak, and then you see him up in the balcony for the next, up in the rafters for the next, year? 16 months, whatever it is. He's up there for a while. So
yeah, awful face paint on him in this one too. Like, it was like Ultimate Warrior Sting face paint. It just didn't look good on him.
It was the NXT Nickelodeon face paint.
NXT. But also, was this the first time that they spray painted someone that I'm trying to remember? Because like Elizabeth got spray painted. But anyway, it was like one of the first times they actually spray painted someone with that really terrible spray paint, or
no, they had stuff in the highlight package where they spray painted Flair's hair.
Oh, that's right.
Spray painted the yellow streak down Savage's back.
Well, I meant like the letters, but yeah, no.
Maybe that's a good. I don't know if they done the NWO stuff or not. That's a good point. I remember Kevin Nash talking about how they always had to keep telling Hogan it's a lowercase n, like it's a lowercase n. It's because he'd always do like a big N, and it's like, no, it's a lowercase N. He's like, I tell Terry, and he'd still put the uppercase N there every time.
What, I did the capital N and the lowercase W? Like, no.
So that's a rundown of Fall Brawl 96. Overall, I think I'll probably give this one a 5.5, 6. There wasn't really one match that I would have to recommend. There's a lot of good matches, Benoit, Jericho, Super Callow, Mysterio, the War Games match. I guess for storyline purposes and the way a finish should be, I guess I would recommend the main event. But there wasn't like that match that I was like, oh my God, over. So I'll give it a 5.5, 6 range.
I can tell you what match not to watch.
Yeah.
Watch the Giant and Macho Man Randy Savage. Don't waste your time. Yeah, I'd say it was somewhere in the 5-6 range. Like, it was an average pay-per-view is what it ended up being.
It's a shame because WCW 96 was, fond memories. And I don't know if we look at it with rose-colored glasses because we grew up with it. But yeah, I think 5.5 is fair just because, the DDP match, the Chris Benoit match, and the main event are probably really the only things worth watching because, like you said, Roland fell asleep to the Giant and Randy Savage.
I did. I full disclosure, I did. I made it to that match, and that match put me to sleep.
So I think overall, it was a good pay-per-view. I mean, it's good for, like Tim said, storyline wise, but for match quality, it wasn't one of their best. And it seems like the WCW pay-per-views we've done, we've kind of given them like the 6s and 5.5s, but I just think that Nitros are really where WCW thrived. It's just they couldn't do a pay-per-view. I don't know why. Like certain pay-per-views were really good, like Bash of the Beach 96. Again, episode 31 was a good pay-per-view, good turn. But for some reason, they would get on a streak of just terrible pay-per-views. And I don't know if they just didn't know what they were doing, but Nitro's where it's at. And this pay-per-view kind of showed they just sometimes would just throw shit together and see what stuck.
So that is our rundown, Fall Brawl 96. We have a lot of cool things in store for you in the next coming weeks. Starting with next week's episode, we're going to WWF 99 with Unforgiven. So looking forward to covering that. But as you may have noticed, today was episode 94, which means episode 100 is just a couple of weeks away. And we have a lot of ideas percolating in our brains. We're working with a friend of ours to put something really special for you guys. I don't know how much details we want to give them now, but episode 100 is going to be pretty huge and exciting for us and hopefully for you guys.
Yeah, I will spoil it a little bit and say that we have what essentially will be our first working sponsor, which is huge. And again, that's more or less a friend of ours that has, so I mean, it's not, somebody contacted us and wanted to sponsor us, but still you have to start somewhere. And he's also a wrestling fan, so it was a perfect match. So I know we don't want to go too far into what it is yet, but like I will spoil that and say that we have our first working sponsor. So you're going to start seeing or hearing some more advertisement for that and for the special that we have planned for the 100th episode. You can't just have like episode 99, 100 and 100. You have to do something at your milestone shows, and this is going to be a show unlike any other.
I agree. I'm excited. You guys started something, back in November 2019. Just, like you guys have said, just you and Tim, on a microphone, shooting the shit, starting out with Survivor Series 1989, the current Survivor Series to start the format, talking with Jericho. There's so many episodes in the archives. Go back and listen because we've definitely grown. The show's grown, and we're really excited because it is a milestone episode. Like Roland said, it's 100. It's not like, we're going to do episode 100. We're going to do a Saudi show, we're going to do this show. We want to bring something really special, something different, something that kind of gets us out of our comfort zone too. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what we deliver. I know we're right now working behind the scenes, so we don't want to give too much away because if we don't want to say this is what we're going to do and then have things not work out. But also, I'm going on the Jericho cruise next month. So we have some vlog content, some content from that. We're going to have some more TNA episodes, hopefully in November, some AEW episodes. So we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline that we're excited to talk about. And I just think that we couldn't have grown without you. So we appreciate everyone. Please keep telling everyone about us, liking, sharing. Roland posts really funny memes. I try to post funny memes. So just follow our socials. We try to post news when we can. I post about the plane ride from hell. So if you haven't got a chance to watch Dark Side, you need to watch the plane ride from hell because it's been talked about before, but holy God, the way they delved into it, I didn't realize how bad that event actually was. And that's one of the things I like with our socials is we try to, at least share you the news that we see. I try not to, at least me, I know Roland does the same thing. We try to spoil you, like showing you like, oh, this is what happened 5 minutes ago. But if we feel it's important, we share. So follow our socials because we try to keep you up to date with what's going on with us. We make you laugh. Sometimes we just make ourselves laugh, but we couldn't do this without you. We appreciate everyone.
I hope my mom's happy with the length of this episode.
Yes.
Just want to put that out there.
Full disclosure, we were a little rushed for time because I am about to lose internet in about 29 minutes. So, it's definitely a shorter episode, but like I said, we have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline for you. I do want to just note this. When Mongo was talking, he mentioned the phrase "what we deliver," so that might be a hint to our 100th episode. So just I'm just going to leave it at that. But next week, Unforgiven 99 for episode 95. Looking forward to covering that. And we'll be back next Saturday at 5. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.